All right, so here we are at another seed. I decided to change things up this time and go for a tigress village. Normally in the past, I tend to not pick these villages just because of their layout and the fact that they don't have librarians or other jobs that I tend to prefer my villagers to have kind of off on the start, so I don't have to make the equipment for it. But I don't know if, let me know down below if they do have librarians, because I'm not sure off the top of my head if it's possible. I've never seen one, I should put it that way. So yeah, it actually had quite a few different spots. It had a couple of stone cutters, so I got rid of those because we don't need those types of jobs, and I basically just ransacked the place. Normally when I would do this, I would go to another village, but I decided that I would just stick with this one instead of wandering off until I found one that I preferred. When I looked the seed up on the seed map, there were a couple of villages nearby, but this one was right next to spawn, so I didn't really feel the need to scope the other ones out. So while I do that, be sure you leave a like and subscribe. And let me know what you guys think down below. It did have a set of kind of armor on the armor stands that was kind of nice, so I could start off with much more armor than normal. You see that campfire by that I ran into that several times, and it terrified me quite a few times because all of a sudden I have my headphones on and I get hit with a whole bunch of noise. Anyways, then I entered the caves and was able to take off some creepers. This cave was relatively large. I didn't run into too many issues running into it, and it also had a whole lot of iron in it, which was kind of nice. I definitely think that just playing through it a couple of times, that caving is the better way to go when trying to get iron. I haven't had any issues with running low on iron I started using iron farms, but when I would do strip mining for iron, I remember running into a lot of issues where it wasn't even an option to make an iron farm. So I definitely would say caving is a better option. I also, while I was wandering in, found a zombie dungeon, a zombie dungeon, and it had a whole bunch of skeletons in it along with the zombie, but it was because it ended up being attached to almost a mine shaft, indirectly. So I quickly took out the zombies and kind of worked my way around until it had enough light so that no more zombies would be spawning, and they kept poking up their heads and picking up the rotten flesh as I was trying to hit them. But thankfully I was able to get most of it out, and there wasn't too much exciting stuff inside of it for us to take. It did have some more food and stuff, but yeah, there was a surprising number of skeletons inside it. So the first time when I popped up into it right here, I thought that it was a skeleton spawner, but it wasn't. Then they started shooting each other, so it was fine. I was able to get some moss after kind of wandering my way through and clearing out the tunnel that the zombie spawner was next to, and I happened to find some diamond inside some andesite, which was kind of cool. But I remember seeing a video, I can't remember where, it was probably some Minecraft video, but they talked about how that's kind of rare, so I decided to leave it until I got silk touch on a pickaxe, so it just kind of chilled out down there, and we carried on with our exploration. This is actually in the hill right behind where the village was set up, which had a zombie spawner as well, but this one, because of the way the lava was kind of set up, it also didn't have that many zombies spawning from it, so we kind of made our way out of that one. And it also had an aqua affinity helmet or thing. I know I've seen it on helmets, but I don't actually know what it does. I could look it up, it's not that difficult, but I just haven't. So I'll just see it every so often inside of it. And I took the chest because I always like grabbing the chest so I could make them into hoppers for whatever I need. I did a little bit more mining, and eventually I found these diamonds. Unfortunately, that one only had one because I need 2 in order to make an enchanting table, because the goal is to get feather falling, because the enchantments that the villagers were trading for this seed weren't very good. Most of them were Unbreaking 1 or Protection 1, so nothing that really could protect us for much. I found another zombie spawner, which I thought was ridiculous. There were so many close by. Unfortunately, they were far enough away that I couldn't just mark them as together or hook them up, because I know some people, I've seen people do it. I see it with spider skeleton spawners more, but where you kind of hook them all together and have them all feed into the same area, but oh well. Then I wanted to go light this area up, so I moved over, and then I saw a skeleton, so I started to move away, and then I realized that the water was gonna get me stuck, and so I decided I was just gonna have to fight it out. And so I started fighting it, and then there were 2 skeletons, and one of them had a power bow, or an enchanted bow, I should say. And so I started fighting him, and I was so nervous I was gonna die because the water kept letting me forward. But thankfully I survived to fight another day and made my way out of the tunnel as quickly as possible because that was too close. I did this time around find a lava pool, so I decided to grab all my obsidian from there. Normally I have to do the infinite lava source, or I choose to do the infinite lava source, but this time we were under a lush cave. Not a very big one, but a small lush cave, which prevented us from having any dripstone, and I felt like looking for a dripstone when I could just go to this lava pit was kind of ridiculous. It was kind of close to where I set up my iron golem farm, so it wasn't too far of a journey. I didn't have to full on set up camp. I could walk back when the sun started to go down without getting killed by too many mobs. But one thing with spruce forests, not that I'm currently standing in one, but with spruce forests, I found that there are a lot more mobs that kind of linger around. And because of all the zombie spawners, there were constantly zombies in my village taking us out. As you can see, this is all the armor that I've kind of enchanted with after trading hours and hours of sticks to get to the villages. I think it's a little bit overpowered at this point, but oh well, we'll just go with it. I did eventually make my way to the Nether, and I spawned in this tiny little soul sand valley, and so I kind of blocked up the area, so I made sure that when I walked out of the portal that I didn't accidentally fall to my death into the lava, because that would be really embarrassing. I don't like having my portal in the soul sand valley, mainly because skeletons kill me more often than not, although we know from last time that ghasts are now a major threat. And so never fear, this time I actually have my headphones on. I forgot to wear them last time. I have my headphones on and I was prepared for any slight noise of a ghast. So we did that, and then we sort of made our way across this little island until we reached the fortress, which was so annoying fighting these ghasts because there was also these blazes, because there was this ghast nearby that kept on making noises as I was going, and I was convinced that he was going to spot me and burn us to the ground. This one didn't take as long because I had looting 2 on my sword, so once we were able to get that up, we traded our way up to have enough ender eyes and grabbed all of our supplies, said goodbye to our dearest friends, grabbed the water so that we could make an infinite water source when we made it to the end, grabbed our bed, and started heading off on our adventure. Eventually, we made our way to the stronghold, and I did what I have done in the past where I kind of land next to the silverfish spawner, because the last thing we want is to die to a bunch of silverfish. So we adjusted our way up, and then the silverfish started to kill us, which was super annoying, and I was very nervous. Then I almost jumped into the lava, and they kept on popping up out of nowhere, and then eventually I was able to finally make our way up, killed that thing. As you can see, they popped out of all of that stone, which was kind of annoying, and then I just kind of struggled hitting them for the next couple minutes, and then I accidentally dropped down, and so then I had to pop back up, but then they could kind of get me, and eventually, thankfully, I was able to take them out. It just took a lot longer than anticipated. I broke all of the stones around me so that I didn't have to worry about them coming up behind me, and I have fire aspect on my sword too, which was helpful. But yeah, so I had to clear it out. Quite the battle that went down trying to fight the silverfish. I have to say, when it comes to the end of these things, I am more terrified of fighting the silverfish than I am fighting the end dragon, because the silverfish dying right as you're about to enter the portal is more frustrating than actually dying to the Ender Dragon, because when I died to the Ender Dragon, I feel like it's more practice, whereas when I died to the silverfish, it's annoying because I haven't even gotten to fight the big boss. So with everything that I needed, I put in the Ender Eyes and I jumped in. I got one of the nicer spawns that I prefer, where it's set up with the small room inside of it, so I kind of like having it set up as my main base, where worst case scenario I can come back. I did have a pumpkin this time around, and so you can see me making an infinite water source over here after making our little tunnel, so if an Enderman kind of focuses in on us, we can run and hide inside of our little small cave kind of towards the beginning of the setup, which I have yet to do, but it's there in case I need it. So we picked up our water so that we could go and do any last minute water bucket clutches, and with our pumpkin on, we headed off to fight the Ender Dragon. This one I tried the kind of tunneling my way up after dropping down. I sort of started doing the tunneling my way up the side of the mountain, and that worked for about halfway up the tower, and then the dragon just took us out as we went. So after giving it up, I started towering up the side. I tried this the first time I fought the dragon, but I died so horribly, so I decided that I wouldn't do it. And then this time I decided to give it another shot, and the dragon kind of went at me. Thankfully, I had enough protection on my shoes and everything that I was able to do it, and I dropped down into one of my oh-so-familiar tunnels that I tend to land in. And at this point, I had moved my bucket into my offhand so that I could use it more readily. I don't know, I don't use water bucket clutches very often because I tend to remain as protected as possible. So I hid down here and kind of filled it up. I dug this further over because I knew that I was going to need to shoot the now opened section. I did take my pumpkin off because it was only too high, so I knew an Enderman couldn't come up behind me. I don't like the fact that when I have a pumpkin on that you can't really see as well, but oh well. So I kind of shot up at it. This bow had infinite on, which is really useful, and I took out the crystal in the cage and made my way over to the next section of the tunnel, which was open. So I backed up, put my pumpkin hat on, and then proceeded to leave the tunnel because we've learned our lesson. The Enderman is almost as dangerous as the dragon at this point. Now this is a recreation of how I died in this because I accidentally forgot to record how I died in this one. So I went over to fight the dragon and I jumped up and it launched me in the air and I died.